Thank you, Chair and committee members. My apologies from my Chair, he's not able to be here with you today. So for our submission, you have myself, Nicola MacDonald, Chief Executive for Ngati Manuhiri Settlement Trust. I'll take our submission as read, and we'd like to address the committee on two key themes of our submission. The first being that Te Tiriti o Waitangi does not require reinterpretation as an agreement between a sovereign and sovereigns, and two, closer to home, a discussion on our settlement history. It's not uncommon for iwi Māori and hapu Māori to find themselves stating and restating to the Crown as well as to Parliament that Te Tiriti is a partnership in which both the Crown and Māori must act reasonably and with utmost good faith. However, throughout the past 185 years that Te Tiriti has existed, it has only ever been the Crown who has attempted to rewrite, reinterpret or redefine Te Tiriti. We state the obvious, it takes those on both sides of a partnership to successfully change an agreement. A unilateral approach, as proposed with this bill, will not succeed. As members of Legislature, you all have a duty to ensure that partnership is respected. You should not be complicit in allowing the executive to abrogate its duties to those that it has a partnership with, namely ourselves, iwi and hapu Māori. In exercising its duty to report back to Parliament on this bill, the committee should consider how many Māori, hapu, iwi, PSGEs, that is, how many treaty partners have submitted on this bill. The committee should also consider whether this bill and its consultation process has been done with iwi, hapu Māori or to iwi and hapu Māori. It should come as no surprise that the Trust believes it is the latter. Every rangatira who affixed their moko, tohu or signature to Te Tiriti o Waitangi agreed to the Articles of Te Tiriti. No rangatira signed principles. Furthermore, Te Tiriti is an agreement between a sovereign and sovereigns. It was signed on behalf of the sovereign by Captain William Hobson, Crown agents, and sovereign hapu iwi Māori represented by their own rangatira. It has been understood to manifest in a way that entitled hapu and iwi Māori throughout the mutu their own unique, enduring relationship with the Crown. Decades of efforts by successive governments to improve the way the Crown upholds its obligation to hapu and iwi are at risk of being undone by this bill. Even allowing this bill to progress at this stage at Select Committee allows those who are not part of an agreement to have an opinion on what that agreement should or could mean. This undermines years of good faith partnership and collaboration by successive governments with hapu and iwi. In proceeding with this bill, we submit that the government has shown a preference to prioritising agreements between political parties over respecting, protecting and upholding its obligations contained in Te Tiriti. We implore the committee and its members to report this bill back to the House as quickly as possible with a recommendation it not be passed and remind the Crown of its duties to uphold its obligations into the future. Rather than give validation to the purpose of this bill by wasting words on specifics, I want to share with you our settlement history as a hapu. I do so to emphasise that each hapu has their own unique and enduring relationship and history with the Crown. This cannot be forced into a box just because it makes things more easy or more convenient. The history of how Ngati Manuhiri Settlement Trust came into existence extends back to the early 1800s. Ngati Manuhiri did not sign the Treaty of Waitangi or Te Tiriti o Waitangi, but with the arrival of colonial governments, we developed quickly those relationships with Crown officials. In 1841, the Crown purchased an extensive area called Mahurangi, which included much of the lands in which Ngati Manuhiri held customary interests. We were not consulted about the sale, and the Crown did not conduct an investigation on customary rights when it purchased this land. By the time the Crown recognised Ngati Manuhiri interest in these lands, settlers had moved in, and Ngati Manuhiri were forced to accept compensation. Our people were also forcibly evicted from Te Hauturu or Toi, Little Barrier Island, after the Crown decided it wanted to own the island. By the late 2000s, not that long ago, Ngati Manuhiri were effectively landless. In 2009, we began the negotiation process with the Crown for the settlement of our historical treaty claim. And in 2012, the Ngati Manuhiri Claim Settlement Act was passed to give effect to that deed of settlement. We represent our people since then. We are compelled by our duty to our people to state our opposition to this bill. Our mission is to elevate the voices, hiki te mana o ngā tupuna o Ngati Manuhiri, through advancing the prosperity and well-being of our Ngati Manuhiri people. Now, we focus on prosperity for our people through strategic initiatives and partnerships that amplify our presence across our rohe, many of which involve partnering with the Crown. Some of these include combating the invasive seaweed kalupa with the Ministry of Primary Industries. Some of these include all mahurangi, powering up infrastructure and roading. In Tamaki, we're one of the first to have iwi partners embedded in this much-needed roading project. We value those enduring relationships, but we want to make it clear the government puts this relationship at risk when entertaining a bill like this. The Crown's own apology to us in our deed of settlement says it wants to build a new relationship with Ngati Manuhiri based on the Treaty of Waitangi and its principles, so that Ngati Manuhiri and the Crown can work together to revitalise Ngati Manuhiri. Given the government's support for this bill through to second reading, it's not unreasonable for the Trust to now question the integrity of that apology. In closing, Decades of work to repair and evolve the relationship between the Crown and Māori have been disrupted by the progression of this bill. While as it ultimately the government must sit with its decision, this select committee has the opportunity to do what is right rather than what is politically expedient. The only sensible course of action at this point would be for the select committee to recommend that the bill will not be passed by the House, and we implore the committee to do so with utmost urgency. On behalf of Ngati Manuhiri, we'd like to express our appreciation for the work that you are doing and for your time. Tēnā koutou. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Nicola. We've got a couple of questions. First from Duncan Webb, then Mari Mino Kapki.
I'll defer to Mari Mino, actually, James.
Good.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tēnā koe, Duncan. Ngati Manuhiri a tēnā koutou e Nicole Kauloko Muk, kami te mihi kia koutou. Nicole, i roto I tau kōrero, in your submission, there's a statement, the Crown cannot act as a partner while denying us a voice, which was one of the many standout statements. So my question is, what steps should the Crown take to reflect iwi perspectives in legislation?
The first one is to ultimately not pass this bill. I think that it's really important. New Zealand has done, through successive governments, have made such huge progress between Māori and non-Māori relationships. As a country, we should be proud of those strong sets and foundations that have been achieved. And there are many examples which I won't go into. But one of the big examples for Ngati Manuhiri, being a hapu who had a direct negotiation with the Crown, at that time that was with the national government, has seen Ngati Manuhiri advance and propel itself forward when just 20 years ago we were landless.
Bye-bye. Nicola. Duncan, you've got time for a quick question.
Kia ora, look, very quickly, I read your settlement legislation. Throughout it are references to the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi. Do you think that this bill, if passed, would be a unilateral renegotiation of your settlement?
No, I don't see, Ngati Manuhiri does not see ourselves renegotiating our treaty settlement. Unless the Crown wants to give us more, then let's open the table for that discussion. Happy to do that, Duncan. That would be fantastic.
Thanks, Nicola. Thanks, Duncan. Appreciate your time here with us this afternoon and for presenting to the committee.
All right, what do you think, Nick?
Yeah, there's a lot in that. I mean, the kind of big takeaways for me were around sovereign to sovereign. And I mean, I think the submitter there was really quite clear that when Te Tiriti was negotiated way back in 1840, it was between two sovereign nations. And I think what we're seeing right here is an attempt to renegotiate with one party having a crack at renegotiating what was put down in 1840. And I mean, I don't know whether people can pick up, but I have a little piece behind me here, which is quite dear to us in disability rights community, says nothing about us without us. And that's kind of what we take to be very dear. And that's kind of means basically, if you're going to do something, you need to involve people and bring them to the table. And I think that's kind of what's really stirring up a lot of anger and resentment within the Māori world right now, because we've got the Crown saying we want to do something, or not even the Crown, we've got an 8% party saying that we want to effectively renegotiate Te Tiriti, and not even involving or engaging or talking with Māori. And I think that's really quite challenging and offensive, and that's why you're seeing the sort of presentations to select committee like this one, and the thousands and thousands of others.
I would like to point out too that because the way how the government is approaching the three Ps, the conservative interpretation of Te Tiriti, is going to also impact other groups, other minorities. Like you said, with the slogan behind you, unfortunately it's back to front for me, but nothing about us without us, right? You think of it in the context of Te Tiriti, right? Partnership, protection, participation. So it's not just exclusive to Māori, it's inclusive. That's the three Ps. The Te Tiriti is meant to be interpreted that way. It's actually quite an inclusive, progressive document. And I know that might trigger some, I don't know, bigoted conservatives. But yeah, I mean, again, as I keep harping on and on and on, iwi and hapu were not consulted in the writing of this bill. And again, if the government is not willing to engage in partnership with a group of people who signed Te Tiriti, the signatories, the people who descend from those signatories, that should be sending alarm bells to other minorities about what else the government might be willing to do in the future to undermine human rights. I mean, we've already seen David Seymour say that, hey, we want to get rid of the Human Rights Commission because they're woke.
Yeah. I mean, I think fundamentally, I approach this from the position that Te Tiriti is our founding document. It's the foundation from which everything else flows out from. And I think we've got a government here that wants to renegotiate the terms on which our country was founded. And I just think, hold on a second, I think that's really really concerning. And I think that's why we're seeing the thousands and thousands and thousands of submissions, and we're seeing the hikoi which came down the country, and that's why we're seeing people just being really deeply concerned about it.
This government does not want partnership with the people. They want partnership with corporations.
Yep.
That much is very clear.
Yep.
Okay, all good. On to the next.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to our